Good morning. It is 8:02 a.m. on Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. I call the Economic Development Authority meeting of New Ulm to order. To those of you watching live, I apologize. Some of the worldwide internet problems made us a couple of minutes late today. The first item of business is roll call. We do have a quorum present. Item 2.1 is the EDA October 14th, 2025 minutes.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.1, Administrative Activities, October 2025.
Good morning, President and Commissioners. Hopefully you reviewed that prior to this morning. Because of the internet outage, I don't have my overview for you as usual. But if there were any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
I reviewed it and I didn't have any questions, so I'd make a motion to accept the Economic Development Authority administrative activities for the month of October 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.1, Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher Program 2026 budget.
All right, Commissioners and President Markgraf, this is an annual item passing the 2026 budget for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Again, I don't have my overview, but I will note that you'll notice the budget increases significantly from 2025 to 2026, and that is because of the addition of the tenant protection vouchers. We received 56 for Linderhof Park Apartments and another 21 for Sunset Apartments this year, so our budget next year includes those additional vouchers, and that's why there's such an increase.
I'll make a resolution to adopt the 2026 Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program annual budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Director Bregel, please call the roll.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Reinhardt Kalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Betker?
Yes.
President Markgraf?
Yes, that motion carries. Item 5.1, EDA November 18th, 2025 claims list.
I didn't see anything out of the ordinary except one thing that always catches my eye is elevator expenses. Can you just share about that service? I know that it is incredibly expensive, believe me, but I was just curious if you could expand on that.
Yeah, I can tell you, I don't remember exactly what the repair was, but they do a monthly preventative maintenance on our elevator, and at one of their regular service of the elevator, they noticed, I think there was something that was leaking oil or leaking something, and a part needed to be replaced, and so that's why that's such a large expense. But it's to prevent the elevator from breaking down and having an even more expensive repair. So.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I'll motion to approve the EDA November 18th, 2025 claims list.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 6.1, EDA Strategic Priorities Review.
Right, we have representatives from Better City with us virtually today to give you a high-level overview of the strategic plan. And then the intent is to bring the final draft to you for approval at the December meeting. So they're going to be joining us here. Luckily, the internet outage isn't affecting them being able to connect with us this morning. Are you there, Jason and Sarah?
That's my brother and sister's name. That's fine.
Mike, are they connected?
Looks like it. They're Google.
There, I
Here's
see they're popping in.
They're waiting in the lobby.
Sarah is joining us from Turkey, I believe.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, some internet connections problems today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So I'm actually attending from Dubai. Sorry about that. So with the internet connection problems, Jason, our CEO, should be here as well. So Heather, if there's any chance to call through the meeting, that will be great because I think I cannot do that right now. But so we haven't had the chance to meet you before. I was actually the project manager behind that, working with Heather and Chris closely. Okay, yes, he's here as well. My teammate and I actually attended the in-person visit since I am overseas. But here are today, so we would love to. Like, it's a really great chance to meet you all. Actually, I'm seeing myself and not able to see you.
There we go.
Okay. Awesome.
Good morning, Jason.
Yes, Jason is here as well. So you already met with him, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
I apologize for being late. I changed time zones and forgot. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. But my bad, sorry.
And with the internet connection problem today, so it's
Yep.
interesting. Hope you had a chance to review the presentation deck we already shared with you. So today we would like to overview that presentation with you and answer any questions you have. And in a second, I will be able to share my screen.
Would you like me to do it, Sarah? You have any connection problems?
Sorry, Jason.
Would you like me to share screen or?
I'm able to do that. So
Okay,
I
that's
just
good.
in a second.
Okay.
It will be there shortly. It should be there. Can you see my screen?
It showed
Yes.
up. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Jason, would you like to start?
Sure,
Or I
yep.
can. Yeah, I
No, go
think you
ahead.
can start. No, that should be okay.
Yeah, no, I'll go ahead. So it's this has been a fantastic process for us. It was like Disneyland going to meet all of you in New Ulm. What an amazing community, and just tons of respect for Chris and Heather and what they're doing, but also the chamber and there's just a lot of people doing a lot of great things, and uh, honestly, you're elite already. This is a really, and I think I mentioned that when I was there talking with all of you. So this is really about honing in and really just perfecting the model in a community that's already just killing it, doing a great job. So super impressed with what's going on. So go ahead, Sarah. So we're going to look at it's not just a data dump. Here's the priorities, but give the backstory and why we think these are important and the reasoning behind it, and then look at the specific goals, and then talk about since this is a strategic plan for the EDA, it's really about what are the roles of the commissioners, what are the roles of the team, Heather and her team, and make sure there's clear delineation. So. And please, at any point along here, please stop us. We got so much great feedback and input from all of you when we talked with you during the interviews. We'd love to make sure this is collaborative, and please push back or ask questions as we go through. Okay. All right. So this plan is really, you've already got New Ulm has the comprehensive strategic plans, which are fantastic, which really do a great job of laying out from a city perspective. Here's where we want to go. Here's the objectives. So really, it's just all right. How does the EDA best carry out those directions that are already there? And then what's its role? And then specifically, what are the actions that are required? And then there's also some talk about the ecosystem. So, there's the chamber and Newbrick and how do all these function together. So, okay, Sarah. All right. So one of the tasks was to provide these a mission and a vision. So give you a second to read those, and would love to hear any thoughts.
I think it looks good and what every community would want.
Well, that's exactly how I would have phrased it as far as our vision and our mission. That's what we want to do. So it looks good to me.
Okay. There's some things that I think are important here. The collaboration piece, and the mission to be collaboration, and definitely innovation. And I think that's leaning into a strength, right? Just intellectually and with the approach to programs, tons of innovation. And that's really going to be the key going forward. Okay. All right, Sarah. Okay, so the core values are meant to articulate and just make clear what's important. What are the things that you as a committee and the organization, what are the things that are most critical? And again, you see a lot of the same principles that were identified in the mission. The entrepreneurship and resilience, I think, are two things that we're going to talk about as we move forward, and you'll see those manifest in some of the recommendations. Oh, and also community identity. Thoughts here? Anything that is missing?
I think you've captured a lot of it very well. I like also the stewardship aspect where we are in charge of quite a bit of money, and how do we use that to the best of New Ulm and furthering our economic development.
Great point. Any other thoughts? Okay, Sarah.
Yes.
This may be. This is actually more meaty than it might appear. It might seem a little bit obvious, but really the point is because there's three organizations, and at some level the county as well, but really three that are part of the ecosystem. What are the roles of each of them? So we clearly delineated it, and we looked at it and considered what everyone's doing, but really for us it's obvious that the EDA should be the lead, because the city has the funding, has the overall strategic imperative from the citizens, right? Has a strategic plan, has a comprehensive plan, and the EDA is the organization that implements what the city wants to have happen. So it has the specific responsibilities for the tools, the loans, and the grants and things like that, but also it has a leadership role for the whole ecosystem. And then that last bullet I think is important also because it's bidirectional, right? That the city, through the city council, the directives come down, but then also there's the feedback loop, right? Saying here's what we're seeing, here's what modifications need to happen, but it's important that the communication goes both ways. Okay. If there's comments, we'll move on.
Looks good.
All right, so those are the first slide was, all right, these is kind of the legacy roles. These are the new roles. Looking forward, what kinds of things, not new roles, but just acknowledging that these are roles that moving forward might be a greater part of it. So, you know, the convener, and the strategic investor. So someone mentioned, and I'm sorry, it's hard to see who you are through these little screens, but that there's a lot of dollars involved, and it's the strategic investment piece. So how do we use these dollars strategically to do catalytic projects? So, okay. All right, Sarah, next. All right. And this is really getting to the delineation of the responsibilities between the board and the staff. And and for those who've served on boards, this will be obvious, but the board's role is really to focus at a strategic level, at a programmatic level. You know, what's the funding coming in? What's the best use of that funding? What are the objectives? Again, keeping an eye on, here's the strategic plan, here's the comprehensive plan, here's at a high level, the meta level, here's what we're trying to accomplish. And the staff's level is to take those and execute it. So the granular program administration, looking at process applications and so forth. So this becomes incredibly important as we move. I think it's maybe the last slide where we talked about rolling forward with the calendar, that the board's going to have a lot of heavy lifting to do with analyzing programs and making specific recommendations that are specific policy decisions around the programs. And so it's really imperative that the execution be left with the staff, so the board has the time to focus on those strategic imperatives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sarah. Any questions or comments on this? I think it's...
Nope.
I think it's always good to put that before a board, because we are tempted, all boards, I think, are tempted to dip into the other side. And so it's always a good reminder.
Right. Thank you. And also, there's just not going to be bandwidth to do that with some of the things that we're going to put on your plate here in a minute with, all right, you've got to do some specific analysis of these programs. So yeah, there's just not going to be time. Thank you. Okay. So this codifies the relationship between the organizations. And I think along the right-hand column there, the partnership principles is the key. That no wrong door policy is really the critical, because you want to make sure that when someone calls, whether it's a new business or a business that's that wants to potentially move into town, potential new business, that first phone call has got to be the catalyst, right? Whoever they talk to. So one of the things that we'll talk about is making sure there's training, a lot of communication, so that if Sarah picks up the phone call at the chamber, she'll be able to say, oh yeah, we do have that kind of a grant program, and be able to talk about it. And it was interesting, just when we talked to Newbrick and the chamber about, we went through this with them, there was a point at which someone suggested, oh yeah, there's this grant program for that. The other parties were, I don't think there is. And just having that discussion, they realized, oh, I was incorrect about that. And so it is hypercritical. There's great communication there, so that, so there's clear delineation of roles, but also information sharing. And so that if someone comes in, they say, yes, we do have that program. I'll send you to Heather and she can help you. Let's see, Heather and Chris, is there anything else on this? We've spent a lot of time talking through these roles and the coordination. Is there anything you'd like to highlight here?
No, I think you pretty much got the message across, kind of where we intend or what each group essentially wants to do. There'll probably be some crossover moving forward a little bit through startup support and business consulting until Newbrick fully gets up and running, kind of in that session, because we do offer the business consulting here on a very limited basis. So they would be an extension of that, and then startup support, with our grants and just Heather being able to walk a business through that process. We will do some of that. So there'll be a little bit of overlap. I wouldn't call it duplication per se, because anything that Newburgh does, eventually they'll have to turn it over to the city to help them walk that business through the city process. But I think Better City did a really good job of putting everything we've kind of talked about for the past 4 or 5 years into a cohesive infographic for everyone to kind of know roles and lanes.
Thanks, Chris. And the great news is, we sat down with Heather, Steve, and Sarah, and there's alignment that the nodding heads say, "Yep, that's good. These are the lanes," and there's a commitment to, along the right hand side there it says regular coordination, and I think that's gonna be a key going forward, and there's commitment there. Okay, Sarah. Okay, so here's the categories of the things that we're going to discuss, as you can see there. And let's just go ahead and roll into the calendar. The next slide. So your role going forward. So we've done some analysis. We have recommendations, and now we turn it over to the board. And so we've worked with Heather and Chris and put together a calendar that says, here's you can see on the work session focus to look at each of the programs sequentially and say, okay, let's tweak this one based on the recommendations and the feedback we've gotten, and then codify those and make them and take the actions to actually adopt those changes. And so 2026 is going to be a really impactful year as you go one by one through each program, and make sure there's alignment with this, with what we're presenting, the strategic objectives and our observations and thoughts based on the work we've done. And now there's the specific details, the granular details on how to implement those. Any questions as you look at this?
I like taking the year to further develop each one individually rather than trying to tackle everything at once. It feels much more doable, and that will do a really good job of making sure those are in alignment with what we need to have happen here in New Ulm.
I'm really glad you recognize that, because I think you do a disservice if you try to do them all at once. If you try just, along with the normal cadence of things you got going, says, yep, we're going to tackle everything. I don't think you give the focus that probably is required. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sarah. Okay, housing was, there we go. Obviously, a big topic. There's so much going on, and this is one where you just you kind of need to step back and pat yourselves on the back here. It's really incredible what you all have done and the changes that have happened to this home building ecosystem over the past few years, and the focus on bringing in affordable housing and catalyzing projects, maintaining quality, maintaining neighborhoods. It's just been super impressive, and there's a lot going on, a lot in the pipeline. And so when we looked at that, one of the key takeaways, and we talked about this with y'all, is that it's not that, how fast can we grow, right? There's no appetite out there, and shouldn't be, frankly, to just grow as fast as possible. Yes, there is significant demand for housing in New Ulm, just because we've talked about how many people commute in from the outside, and a large number of those would love to live in New Ulm. Obviously, it's a great place. But the city and Chris and all of you really have a great appreciation for cadence, right? That let's grow at a pace that makes sense for everyone. And with the housing that's already permitted and underway, there's a great pipeline that there's really, you're meeting the projections for how much housing you need. So okay, so if there's if that's already in place, what is the role of the EDA in housing in this market going forward? And the point was, well, it needs to be strategic, okay, and it needs to be catalytic. So just so if we're helping home buyers, that's good, but actually you're just stimulating demand where there's already plenty of demand, right? You're just you're facilitating people to buy homes where there's a lot of people that would buy homes anyway. And there becomes an equity problem with who do you help. So there are specific outcomes that would be beneficial, and one of those is infill, right? So there's already been some great work at rehabilitating buildings and putting housing on the second and third floors, right? That's perfect because that increases property value without increasing infrastructure, and it also creates more density in your downtown core where people can walk to the Main Street businesses. So it really does have catalytic impact to bring on the housing. And so our recommendation is focus the funding and the program on that, on infill, on maybe if it were anywhere else in the universe, you'd say addressing blight. You guys don't even know how to spell blight. It's incredible. Your community is so nice. But if blight were to rear its ugly head somewhere, you could use that as a tool to address that and be very specific about we're trying to achieve this community good, this community goal through this program. Pause. Thoughts? Question? Any pushback on that? So this is really kind of a radical change we're recommending, which is to really go towards targeted investments for specific outcomes.
I don't think so. I think a lot of our decisions should be data driven. So
It makes sense.
Right.
It gives me some comfort too that we're not just willy-nilly promoting help for folks, but that we have a really good strategic reason of why we're doing or giving money to the people that we give money to.
additionally, I think that we are, even with our housing now and with the units that we have coming online in the next, 12 to 24 to 36 months, it's addressing a backlog of things that we've had as well. So while things seem to be moving pretty quickly now, it is just a little bit of catch up. So, but moving forward, this is how we should be doing it as well.
That's a great observation. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. That addressing a need, and that's what this last couple of years has been about, and now it's shifting. And as an economist, it's the supply curve versus the demand curve, right? That there's plenty of demand. It's moving the supply curve out by helping going towards helping facilitate building in areas that make a lot of sense strategically. So yeah, appreciate it. All right, Sarah, number 2, which is identity and branding. This one goes actually far beyond logos and just slogans, because we were really surprised at kind of a misalignment strategically and vision from a vision standpoint about who New Ulm is. And it's somewhat understandable because, all right, are you just this amazing quality of life? Is it the parks? Is it the nature? Is it the German heritage? Is it the the downtown. Okay, so you got different things you can be, but and frankly, doesn't matter. Just be one, but not be all. And I think that's one of the things that kind of stood out is that okay, yeah, there's a lot of great things you could talk about, but you probably need to pick one and craft that into a cohesive message. And so the if we were to pick, I think the German heritage thing is amazing, but that's that y'all can lean into that. I mean, you already got Herman, for heaven's sakes, but anyway, that's a process that you can work through. But the point is, that's a kind of a city level and a tourism level, but it has to filter down to the EDA as well. So this is, Chris has already, believe me, this is on Chris's radar, and he's really anxious to make this happen, probably in 2027. But whatever that meta branding is, that also has to translate into the EDA, and then EDA has to work with the Chamber and Newbrick to say, this is how we talk about ourselves. This is how we present ourselves, and strengthen that coordinated communication. Chris, this is your world. Anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I mean, like Jason had said, this has been on my radar for a long time, just not having logos and consistency across the board, whether we use the chamber logo or city logo or some amalgamation of both, the city seal. I think Heather and I and Adam Tolles, we took a first stab at doing a logo for Newbrick that kind of, or the partnership to really this is the economic development logo that we can use consistent across everyone. But as an EDA, as the city, we do need something that is cohesive, that if it's from us, it's from us, what the tagline is, and it's something we can build. And on top of that, it's just a message. If a business calls, why do I want to come here? Whether it's Newbrick, the Chamber, or us, we have the same message to tell them. This is why you want to move your business here. It's the same talking point. So getting all that together will be, end of 26, 27 kind of major goals when we look at PIO or marketing branding strategies.
Do you see buy-in for others to adopt a similar logo? And here I look at Sioux Falls, which adopted a logo, but then their chamber has a similar looking logo. Good gravy. Logo, the CVB does. There are quite a few partners so it's kind of the same look across the city.
So I would say, as far as an economic development logo for specific economic development purposes, I feel there would be buy-in between the two. They would still have their own, the Chamber would still have its logo, the Newbrick would have their logo, but there would be a piece of that economic development kind of partnership logo when we do materials and things like that. I think there would be buy-in.
And to me, the issue here is the strategic view, right? You'll notice that we've got 5 recommendations or 5 categories here, and there's a lot that we're not going to talk about today, because success in any organization is focusing on those few, right? And when Chris talks about the messaging, I think it's the same thing. It's all right. Let's focus on the strategic few with the branding. And here's, when someone calls to talk about, when you want to talk about New Ulm, there's a lot you could talk about. But having that consistency, here's the 3 or 4 bullet points we're going to make, that just strengthens your argument. So, okay, number 3. So great things happening. Chris alluded to this earlier with the ecosystem with new business support, and the city's done a fantastic job over the years at helping new businesses start, and lots of appreciation out there for the efforts that have happened, and so and frankly really impressive stuff, what you've been able to pull off and accomplish. So this is a pivot where we're saying, great, now at this juncture, because to be honest, when you're trying to fill buildings of a downtown, and you're in the process of rehabilitating buildings, you want anybody in there. You'll do anything to make it happen. So what's gone on is perfect, because you've taken a kind of a moribund downtown, rehabilitated it, and reinvigorated it. Perfect. Now, though, you're in a different place, right? And so it's an acknowledgement that those precious funds need to go towards catalytic outcomes. So a couple principles here, which is structured outreach. The chamber's doing outreach. Newbrook will probably do some outreach, and there's a lot of businesses. So if there's coordination among the three, and Sarah asked for this, that it doesn't make sense for me to go visit a business that Heather just went to, right? And so making sure that yes, we're going and we're keeping our fingers on the pulse of the businesses, but there's outreach and there's coordination. All right, second one, this is really important, is economic gardening. So it's a pivot from how, and it's exciting, it has balloons involved, but there's a pivot from how the funding would be allocated. And it's instead of that first stage where, okay, I want to start a business, here's some funding. It's we want to put our funding toward businesses that are able to go to the next stage. And that's what economic gardening is. The principles of economic gardening is take stage 2 businesses, so they've already proven their concept, but also export-oriented businesses. And we talked about this when we met. And that if we just say, I want to open a nail salon, well, you just give me cannibalistic, right? If you say I'm gonna export, sell acrylic nails to outside of New Ulm, all right, now you're an exporter, and now you're bringing in fresh dollars from the outside. And so those would be the two principles. And then also the CTE support that as they work toward workforce development. This one is so tricky. And this has got to be a real focus of the community, because there's life is changing really rapidly. And I'll just give a little anecdote. My cousin's son, or my nephew, I guess, is a machinist. But his job, as of now, is to train the robots to replace all of his coworkers, right? And at least in his world, there's not going to be any machinists anymore. It's just the robots doing it. And so many of the things that we typically look at with workforce development in this rapidly changing environment won't be required. And so this CTE center becomes hypercritical, and it has to be focused on, and they do have robotics there, but it has to be focused on, the skills that are in demand today and tomorrow. So you might not need welding, just saying, there's just a really different focus going forward. And so being connected to the business community to know what those needs are, and then being able to be nimble and change those programs quickly to be responsive is going to be mission critical. And then finally, the small business loan program, making sure that that's, again, responding to catalytic needs. So it's helping businesses progress in ways that strengthen them and strengthen the economy. Also in here, we should give a shout out to the childcare initiatives that y'all have done. Let's see, because I don't think we mentioned that. That is phenomenal. We've had so many communities complain about how hard it is to, the gap with childcare and what can we do. You're the only community we've ever seen that's done something about it. That is so impressive. So really want to give a high five to Heather and Chris and the team for and all of you for executing that, and definitely something to move forward. By lowering the costs and lowering some barriers for people to do child support. That's super impressive. Okay, thoughts on this one? This one has a lot of meat to it, and would require, again, when you meet in the year to implement this, a lot of specific changes programmatic that would have to happen. So any pushback or thoughts on this?
No, I think it looks good.
Good. All right, number 4 then is about tourism. And tourism in and of itself is nice. It brings extra dollars into the economy and helps your businesses. So, it's good. And frankly, you're already doing a really great job. And at some level, it's kind of a step function, right? You can have this much tourism, and then your assets can only absorb so many, and your assets being your venues, your stores, and primarily your hotels, right? And then you have to increase things, and then you can go again. You're almost at the point where you're ready for to take that step, and we see that step as the hotel. That right now your hospitality product is almost at capacity, and but you could probably use an upgrade to the at least one hospitality product that has a business class, or just a little different. Anyway, just a newer upgraded hotel, so you're hitting all aspects of the market, right? And so when we talk about tourism, it's not for tourism's sake. It's saying, okay, if you just invest a little bit more and put a little more emphasis on it, right now, if you did a hotel feasibility study, you wouldn't quite be able to justify a hotel, right? There's a feasibility study out that already says that. So, okay, what can we do to get to that next level? Because if you had a hotel downtown that was walkable, that would certainly be catalytic from an economic development standpoint. We see that as something that would really take you to the next level. So this is a all hands on deck proposition, but the year-round events, the events you have are crazy cool and super well attended. Are there opportunities to work together to add a few more? Because those would be heavy room nights, right? And then also, look at the Lily, the sports tournaments. What can be done to make those, expand those, make them a little bigger, more frequent? So this is working with the Parks and Rec. It's working with some of the other entities to say, look, we've got to be 20% bigger and more frequent on some of these things, so we can get the visitation we need then to justify a hotel. And we think that with some focused effort, 2030 is a reasonable expectation to be able to say, look, we'll put the programs in place, we'll build them, and if we build them, or if they come, we'll build it. And that would be sufficient to in 2028 or 2029 go to a hotel developer and say, hey, look what we've got, look what we've done. But then be very have high standards and say, look, this is the kind of hotel we want. This is who we are as a community. We're not going to sell ourselves short. If there's going to be any TIF participation or anything that happens from a city standpoint, this is the kind of quality we expect, because this is who we are as a community. Thoughts?
Should we be working on recruiting now, just given the timeline? I mean, it takes a long time to, have these conversations and find the right property, and they're going to want information and we're going to want information. I mean, so should we start doing this right away, do you think? Because again, if you build it, they will come.
I think so. Yeah. And for two reasons. One is, I would love to see a lot of thought put into the location, because contiguous to downtown would be so incredibly catalytic, right? And then secondly, to really steal your nerves and say, nope, we will not, no sleep-ins, no product that's not at our level. So we want this quality of a hotel, and here's what we're willing to do. So have those internal discussions, and then when you go to the developers, you say, okay, here's here's what we can provide, but here's what we want you to bring. So yeah, there's a lot that can be done now, and then once you all decide what you want, absolutely have those discussions.
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Final one is the coordination among the partnership, and really this we talked about this a lot earlier, but it's that no wrong door, but then also increase the coordination. And there's broad willingness, to do so, and everybody sees the value of it. So it's just executing that and saying, "Yep, we gotta make sure that we're working together really tightly to to move these forward." Because tourism is Chambers' thing, right? Nope. Now tourism is a team effort. It's because that hotel will be catalytic to the businesses downtown. Brings in new property taxes, brings in tourism, DRT taxes. So yeah, everybody wins if we get a hotel. So it's not just a Sarah thing. Now all of a sudden it's all of us, all hands on deck, trying to move the needle. And so that level of coordination and partnership is really important. Okay. Okay. And that actually concludes. Those are the 5 areas, and you get next. You can stop sharing stuff. So you get a couple bullet points, but you can see that implicit in that is a whole lot of work on your end to implement those. And so while we've done the analysis and we've looked through the data and come up with recommendations, it really is now is a function of taking those things and implementing. I want to highlight one thing that somehow that I didn't highlight before, which is the fact that for and what's wrong with the screen? Is somebody sharing? Oh, there we go. Wow, that's so much better. Thank you. It's caught the twilight zone there. Thank you. That for a generation or more, economically, New Ulm has relied on its big businesses. So you recruited in the craft and those other big businesses that have provided high quality jobs, been incredible stability, been fantastic community partners. It's just been the engine that's really driven the economy of New Ulm. Between that and your incredibly well laid out downtown, y'all are kind of drinking from wells that you didn't dig. Because you just had a lot going for you. Well, now it's your turn to make that next step as a community and to prepare for the future, because your manufacturing jobs have been in steady decline over the last few years, and it's not been like huge layoffs, or it's been barely perceptible. But at the aggregate level, if we look at the analysis, manufacturing jobs are declining. And when we talk to them, like, "Oh, no, there's not going to be a lot of automation. Don't worry, our job's going to be the same." We're like, yeah, okay. You can think that, but we need to acknowledge that we're just at an inflection point at an economic standpoint, and things are changing rapidly. So while we certainly hope and pray those economic engines remain, we have to acknowledge that their employment is going to decline over time. That's just the reality. And what will replace it? It's entrepreneurship, right? It's businesses that we can't even anticipate today. It's jobs that your children have, jobs that we couldn't even describe right now, right? So the what we talked about with the business support becomes hypercritical, because you have to lend resources and support to the businesses of tomorrow. And that's why it's incredibly important that the program pivot from, okay, we'll help you start up, to no, you got a good idea, we're going to help you scale. Because you need to support those jobs that will replace the manufacturing jobs as they diminish over time. You need to support those industries that will replace some of the industries that are there today. And so your role is very critical, and what you're doing right now will make a big difference. And just as we're lauding the city planners, 120 years ago, or however long ago, for doing such a great job laying out the city, and as we're lauding the people that brought in those industries 50 years ago, hopefully in 20 years they will say, wow, the EDA did a great job of preparing us for the shift by supporting these new industries that didn't exist. And so your role today is very important. I hope that you have a strong sense of mission, because it really does matter. Chris, Heather, anything that we missed, or Sarah, anything that you'd like to highlight?
No, I think it's just good food for thought for the commissioners to kind of take this in, have any comments between now and next couple of weeks before adoption, if they have any changes or, tweaks that they want to put out there. And then we'll get those to you if they have them. But, right now it's on the commissioners right now to kind of digest what they've seen and what they've read, and move on from there.
I have a question for Heather and Chris. Do you feel you have the resources to be able to implement these strategic goals?
Yeah, I would say between her, I, John, and Dave, Elwood and Mike, we have a pretty solid team that can do a lot of the heavy lifting, but incorporating Newbrick in the chamber with some of those pieces as well, I think will work out. It's just putting together the programs, redefining the programs, and kind of executing on those. I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Thank you so much. Any further questions
Thanks
for
all
Better
of you.
City?
I'll make a motion to receive the EDA Strategic Priorities Review presented by Better City.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Thank you very much.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Al. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Item 6.2, 2025 Audited Annual Financial Report.
Okay, I'm gonna try and get this up there.
Got it.
We get two back-to-back fun
Yes.
presentations for you today.
Very good.
President, this is the overview of our audited financial report and the information we received, or I guess the audit from Abjol. So we'll go through. Why isn't that working? Okay. So we have 5 funds within the EDA. The 260 fund is the government funds, and the rest are the market rate or the business activity funds. So 262 is Garden Terrace, 265 was the rental properties, 270 was the housing assistance fund, and 272 was the public housing fund, or is the public housing fund, which is Broadway House and I believe now Linder.
It's Broadway House, and in the public housing program, there's also 10 rental houses.
Yes. Okay, there it did work. So our unrestricted net position is $8,076.15. Our total net position is $6,893,443. So again, portions of our funds are restricted for specific uses. I think you guys are well aware of that. Cash and investments, about $7,833,344. And then our operating revenue for the business type was about $6,171,905, and then that was the change from 2024 to 2025, and then the operating expense change we reduced our expenses by 108,339. And you'll probably hear me say this a lot throughout the presentation, but a lot of the changes are due to the sale of Garden Terrace and the rental property. So Fund 262 and 265. Our assets are strong. They went up in value. And our liabilities went down a little bit again with the sale of Garden Terrace. So there's that. Let's get through. So compared to prior years, this year our market rate housing holds the largest portion of our net position, again related to the sale of Garden Terrace. And then the second largest portion is the government portion, and then the third largest being the public and Indian housing or the Broadway House properties. And then Section 8 is just that little sliver right there. So revenue trends, obviously, in comparison to prior years, with the sale of Garden Terrace and the rental properties, our revenue went up. And then, okay, sorry, next slide, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then expenses, oops, that was revenue trends, sorry, expenses. We did have some decrease in expenses. Garden Terrace was sold in March of 2025, and the rental property was sold in May of 2025, so some of our expenses did go down as a result. And so now we're on to the governmental activities section. In the governmental activities fund, our revenues decreased by $493,000, mainly because we didn't have as many transfers in from other funds, and our expenses decreased by $49,944 or $994. Our net position increased by $111,237. And then public and Indian housing, or mainly Broadway House, our revenues decreased by $143,728, mainly due to the completion of the solar project, and there was less transfers in as a result of that. Our expenses increased $28,485, mainly due to some increase in utilities. Our overall net position increased. And then Section 8, housing, our revenue increased by $34,607. Our expenses increased as well by $57,000. I think that was mainly due to adding Linderhof and the other program or apartments that were eligible. And our overall net position increased by $15,866. And market rate housing, so this is Garden Terrace. So again, Garden Terrace was sold as March 31st, so our revenues increased quite a bit, and our expenses decreased quite a bit as a result. And then our overall net position increased quite a bit too. The rental property, again, kind of the same thing as Garden Terrace. The rental property was sold in May of 2025. Revenues increased. Expenses decreased, or I'm sorry, expenses increased, and this includes the transfer out of the remaining balance into the government funds, into the EDA. So therefore, resulting in an overall net position decrease. And then capital assets, our capital assets decreased by $1.1 million due to the sale of Garden Terrace and the rental property. So I can't say that enough, apparently. And then overall, the auditors issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is good. This year we had no issues of noncompliance, and there were no deficiencies of internal controls. And that is all that I have. Any questions?
It's always good to see, and so we'll have to remember as we kind of compare, the next 3 years back to this, that sale just really kind of brought a lot of changes about, positive changes, I believe, but changes nonetheless.
Next year will look very different without those two funds for, technically, we still have the Garden Terrace Fund into this year, just because of the timing of all the expenses and when everything was actually transferred and cleaned out, so you might see a little bit of that residual effect next year. But overall, it will look very different over the next few years.
Thank you.
It was a very pivotal year for the EDA with closing down those two funds and sale of property and a lot of big things.
Okay, I will make a motion to receive and order filed the 2025 audited annual financial report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 7.1, Economic Development Activity Report.
Right, and again, I don't have my overview. I apologize with the internet outage, but I did just want to mention one thing interesting. I get a lot of calls on the Westridge Place daycare facility from other communities that are looking at childcare solutions, but I had an interesting inquiry from a student at North Dakota State University in Fargo. She is studying in the graduate architecture program, and she came all the way from Fargo to New Ulm to tour Westridge Place with me because she's doing her thesis on how architecture can help with the childcare solutions. And so she was interested in the pod model and came across our project and drove down here. I just thought that was really cool. I did ask her to share her thesis with me when she finishes it and let me know how she does grade-wise on it. So looking forward to getting that from her.
Very cool.
I'll motion to accept the Economic Development Activity Report for October 2025 activities.
Second.
And the second, any further discussion or questions for Heather? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. There being no further items on the agenda, this meeting is dismissed.
So it came back up there anyway, so we should be okay.